Valerie Jean Solanas, born April 9, 1936, was a radical feminist from New Jersey, America. She was known for self-publishing the Scum Manifesto in 1967, but in 1968 she became known for the attempted murder of Andy Warhol. So put your feet up and let's get into the feminist that attempted murder. Valerie Solanas was born in Ventnor City, New Jersey. Her dad was a bartender and her mum was a dental assistant. Valerie's father was abusive and regularly abused her before Valerie's parents split up. Her mum quickly remarried to another man who Valerie took a huge dislike in. As a result, she started to act out and make things difficult for the family. At a young age, she began selling insults to other children for them to use in arguments, each insult costing a dime. When she was in school, she showed she had a caring side, sticking up for a boy a girl was bullying, eventually beating her up. In 1949, she was sent to live with her grandparents as her mum could not deal with her behaviour anymore. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a bad idea as Valerie's grandfather was an alcoholic and would often get drunk and beat her. This eventually drove Valerie away, and at 15 she decided to leave and become homeless. During her time being homeless, she met a sailor who she got close with and ended up getting pregnant by. The sailor was already married, so did not stay around. She went through with the pregnancy and had a baby boy who she named David. David was quickly taken away from Valerie and was adopted out. She never saw David again. Even though she had been through all of that, she still managed to graduate from high school and then went to the University of Maryland and earned a degree in psychology. During her time in university, she started to become influenced by feminism, hosting a call-in radio show on how to combat men. She also discovered that she liked women romantically and not men. Valerie was open about this, which at the time must have been extremely hard. She then worked at an animal research lab while attending the University of Minnesota, but later dropping out, finally attending Berkeley. While attending Berkeley, she began writing the Scum Manifesto. In the mid-1960s, Valerie moved to New York. With no income to support herself, she resorted to begging and sex work to make money. During this time, she wrote a play named Up Your Ass. It was about a young sex worker who was a man-hating hustler and beggar who ultimately ends up killing a man. She also wrote a short story that was published in Cavalier, a magazine, in July 1966. In 1967, Valerie bumped into Andy Warhol outside his studio, where she asked him to produce her play. Andy took the script, promising her he would read through it. Andy was known for his films being shut down by the police for obscenity, so Valerie thought he was her best chance to get the play produced. After reading through Valerie's script, Andy decided it was so pornographic that it must have been a trap set up by the police. When Valerie asked him about the script and what he thought, he told her that he had lost the script. Valerie was understandably very angry with Andy and demanded money for the lost script, but instead Andy and Valerie came to an agreement that he would pay her $25 to be in his film, I, a Man. Valerie really enjoyed being in the film, even bringing her friends to see it. Valerie also self-published the Scum Manifesto. The manifesto included females overthrowing the government, eliminating the money system, and the elimination of the male sex. The manifesto has been translated into many languages, and you can easily find it on the internet. Living at the Chelsea Hotel, Valerie met a man called Maurice. In August, Maurice and Valerie signed a contract that Valerie would give Maurice her next write-in and her other write-ins for a payment from Maurice of $500. After making this deal, Valerie thought that Maurice would now own all of her work, including any of her future work. This infuriated her, and she then decided that Andy not returning her script, and Maurice having the rights to her work meant that the two were working together to steal all of her work. Over the next 9 months, Valerie worked herself up, eventually getting to the point she had to act. On June the 3rd, 1968, Valerie turned up at the Chelsea Hotel searching for Maurice. She asked for him at the front desk, but luckily for Maurice, she was told that he was away for the weekend. Not believing this, she waited around for a few hours before eventually giving up. She then headed to an actor studio asking for Lee Strasberg, aiming to ask him to produce her play. Lee wasn't available until the afternoon, so Valerie handed the script over and then left. Heading to producer Margot Feiden's house in Brooklyn, believing Margot would produce her film. Valerie tried over many hours to convince Margot to produce her film, discussing her vision for a world without men. Margot did not agree to produce the film, pushing Valerie over the edge. In a rage, she got out a gun, asking again for the film to be produced. Margot still refused, so Valerie said, "You will produce the play because I'll shoot Andy and that will make my play famous and then you'll produce it." She then quickly left. Margot, panicking, called the police and even the office of the mayor to report what had happened. Valerie then went to Andy's studio and waited outside. She asked for Andy but was told he was not coming in that day. She didn't believe this, so waited for a few hours before going into the studio and asking again for Andy. For a second time she was told he was not coming in that day, but Valerie didn't believe it and decided to ride the lift up and down until finally the doors opened and standing there was Andy. She accompanied Andy to the office where she was told to leave. The phone rang, which Andy answered. Valerie took this as her opportunity and pulled out the gun, shooting at Andy 3 times, missing twice but hitting him once through both lungs. She then shot at and hit a critic that was there in the hip, then tried to shoot Andy's manager but the gun jammed. He then asked her to leave and she did, leaving 2 people shot. Valerie then went to the police and handed herself in. In her trial, she represented herself and said that she was right in what she did, as Andy was going to ruin her. The judge sent her to a hospital for a psychiatric evaluation, and as a result, she was found to be mentally unstable and was transferred to the prison ward of Elmhurst Hospital until on June the 28th, she was indicted on charges of attempted murder, assault and illegal possession of a weapon. Valerie was found to be incompetent and was sent to a state hospital for the criminally insane. She was diagnosed with chronic paranoid schizophrenia, but in June she was deemed fit to stand trial. Valerie still decided to represent herself and pleaded guilty to reckless assault with intent to harm. She was sentenced to 3 years with 1 year time served. Valerie was released from prison in 1971. She stalked Andy, getting arrested and put in prison many more times. Valerie died on April the 25th, 1988 at the age of 52.